on that. But we are not happy at any of these incidents going on, which perhaps might have been avoided or preempted, by doing certain things correctly. But I appeal to both youths on both sides, both the hashtag NSAS protests, as well as the hungry the youths that are still rampaging everywhere in anger, to please calm down and give peace a chance. Give peace a chance, so that we don't. This is the only country we have. We don't want to destroy it and still be able to live in it, peacefully. Best here, the traditional institution here, we do our best to support the state government to carry out some of the programs, both the state programs and the federal government programs, to ensure peace and the welfare of the youths and the entire people, both the youths and of all ages.
Oba of Benin speaking earlier today. Staying in Benin City, the State Police Command has paraded 106 people for allegedly participating in the looting that took place in the state last week. Also on parade at the State Police Command are 10 prisoners who escaped during the prison break that took place in the state, as well as 10 other people accused of engaging in other criminal offenses. Its Commissioner of Police, Mr. Johnson Kokumo, says that the police remains committed to restoring peace and orderly conduct in Edo State.
Monday, the 19th of October 2020, a total of 1,993 inmates are freed from the prisons at Saple Road and Oko after hundreds of youth laid siege on the correctional centers. For these 10 escapees, freedom is short-lived. They've been arrested and will have to face the consequences.
It will interest you to know that some of these criminal elements who escaped from Oko prison, the Benin prison here, were also arrested. We have a total of 10 escapees from here. And all the guns you are seeing here, of course, were the guns were recovered.
Okay, I no escape from prison. Now inside prison, when we say we did, we can't surprise say people that they child they come say freedom, 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 freedom. The sense so now people now daytime will not be saying me being a night so now they open the cell. Now everybody now say come outside.
Elsewhere in the state, pillage held sway. Hundreds took to the streets, plundering warehouses. It did not matter it was government-owned or belongs to individuals. Just like the escapees, however, the long arm of the law catches up with these suspected offenders.
All the suspects behind me here were suspects arrested from the medical warehouse, where they have gone to loot vaccines, medical equipment, including COVID-19 medical equipment. A number of these people were equally arrested. Those who had gone to police formation, some of them who burned down police formations, were equally arrested. And they are really helping us in tracing other members of their criminal gang.
The police boss is assuring residents of the state that necessary resources will be deployed to ensure that people go about their lawful businesses assured of their safety and that of their property.
The police in Taraba have also given looters up to the 31st of October 2020 to return property they took illegally or face the full wrath of the law. The Taraba State Police Command says it will embark on a recovery mission and arrest individuals or groups with looted property in their possession, and this includes buyers of such property. A statement issued by the State Commissioner of Police, Ahmed Azari, urges residents to identify and report any person or persons suspected to be in possession of such property. In the meantime, the state government has relaxed the 24-hour curfew imposed on Jalingo, the state capital, and Wukari local government area, now to run from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. until further notice. According to the Deputy Governor, Haruna Manu, government will continue to monitor the situation until normalcy is completely restored and ask law-abiding citizens to go about their businesses as government and other security agencies have adopted tougher safeguards to protect lives and property. The Rivers State Executive Council has approved the recruitment of 5,000 youth into the state civil service to occupy available vacant positions. The state government also effected minor cabinet reshuffle, where the Commissioner for Chieftaincy Affairs has been moved to the Ministry of Works, and the Commissioner for Works is now the Commissioner for Urban Development, as well as other redeployments. The decision was disclosed during a press briefing after the weekly State Executive Council meeting chaired by Governor Nyesom Wike at the Government House in Port Harcourt. The Commissioner for Information in the state says the Rebusi flyover will be commissioned on November the 7th, 2020, while civil servants from grade level 1 to 10 are to resume on November the 2nd after the COVID break.
It was agreed by the council that 5,000 youths be employed in the River State Civil Service to fill the vacancies existing in the service. These youths will not be more than 35 years of age to fill the vacancies in the law profession there, in engineering, technicians will be employed, and medical doctors will also be employed, alongside other professions.
Civil servants on grade level 1 to 10 who have been at home since the COVID-19 are to resume work on Monday, November 2nd. Similarly, bars that have been closed down since the COVID-19 are to open, while nightclubs will remain closed.
In Ekiti State, Governor Kayode Fayemi has presented the 2021 budget estimates to the State House of Assembly. The proposed appropriation bill, christened Budget of Recovery and Economic Restoration, focuses on tackling poverty and youth unemployment, improving governance, and cushioning the effects of the global COVID-19 pandemic, amongst other provisions. Governor Fayemi says the budget, which has almost 58 billion naira as recurrent expenditure and just over 51 billion for capital expenditure, also has adequate provisions for the implementation of the new minimum wage. The governor recalls the challenges of the outgoing year, which forced the state to review the 2020 budget downwards and cut other costs, hoping that the coming year will be more friendly.
Based on global forecasts, it is envisaged that the impact of the pandemic will span a period of 2 to 3 years. The 2021 budget, therefore, is designed to lift our people out of poverty, particularly now that we're seeing the debilitating impact of poverty, hunger, and anger in the land. It shall focus on empowerment and social security. Consequently, the budget has been christened Budget of Recovery and Economic Restoration. To mitigate the effect of the pandemic on our economy in the year 2021, we have developed the 2021 draft budget to restore the ailing economy to a buoyant state after we experienced the coronavirus pandemic. The assumptions have been carefully forecast and projected to make the budget a realistic one.
Meanwhile, civil servants on grade level 2 to 7 are to resume on Monday, November the 2nd, 2020 in Ekiti State. This set of designated officers had been away from office since March as directed by the governor so as to effectively combat the COVID-19 pandemic. But the state government says it has reviewed the steps taken in containing the spread of the virus, including the provision of equipment and materials to prevent the spread at workplaces. It also notes that it has continued to promote the welfare of workers in the state despite current economic realities and called on the returnees to be committed to their duties and comply with all COVID-19 protocols. In continuation of the fight against COVID-19, communities in Kiawa local government area of Jigawa State have flagged off the installation of TP taps to 1,650 households. A development organization, Save the Children, in collaboration with the state government, donated the facilities to the communities in order to ease hand washing, which is part of measures to stay safe during COVID-19. Sadiq Ilyasu has more.
"30 kilometers away from Dutse, the Jigawa state capital, is Kiao local government area. Hand washing, wearing of face mask and social distancing are the key preventive measures of COVID-19. This is why officials of Save the Children are flagging up the installation of TP taps to 1,650 households as part of effort to support the communities in the fight against coronavirus.
These are actually localized hand washing stations that enables household members to practice one of the cost-effective way of preventing infectious disease, which is basic hand washing with soap under running water. We are not just giving out these TP taps, we are also teaching household and the wider community members how they can construct these TP taps on their own and how they can practice regular hand washing with soap. With our deep community support.
The members of the community are trained by volunteers on how to install and properly use the local hand washing facility. For quite a while now, Jigawa State has not recorded a single case of COVID-19. The state government has increased the number of sample collection centers after instructing all general hospitals in the state to begin the sample collection. It would seem as if the struggle against the dreaded coronavirus is over. But the World Health Organization and the National Center for Disease Control believe that there might be a second wave of the virus. Personal hygiene is an essential protective measure against COVID-19, and this community in Kiao local government, with the aid of some development partners, is taking no chance as they launch TP tap installation in order to ease hand washing in the community.
Thank you very much, Sadiq Elias, reporting from Dutse. The federal government is set to disburse a grant of 20,000 naira each to over 150,000 vulnerable women across the 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. 250 of such women in Zamfara State are also expected to benefit from the first phase of the program. The Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development Minister, Haji Sadiya Farouk, who flagged off the disbursement in Guzau, says the grant will increase access to financial capital required for economic activities, as well as improve the standards of living of the women.
It's a gathering of vulnerable women from all 14 local government areas of Zamfara State. The converge on Gusau, the state capital, to receive cash disbursement by the federal government. To ensure all are captured in this program, they recognize the women's groups and associations. The physically challenged are not left out. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development expresses optimism that with the support of the state governor and other stakeholders, 100 million persons can be lifted out of poverty by the year 2030.
It's going to go a long way because it is very important that you support people to earn their own livelihood rather than just giving people money or something. This money will go a long way for them to start their own small businesses and they'll be able to fend for themselves and members of their family. We all know that women are at the forefront of peacemaking and they are the caregivers of the homes. They are the ones that are responsible for the child's well-being. They are the ones that are responsible for the character of the children, and so we are appealing to them to instill good ethics and good characters into their children.
The Secretary to the state government says that this gesture will go a long way to alleviate the hardship experienced by the people.
most of the women that are benefiting from the grant are vulnerable women, and these women include women in the IDPs. So it's going to help them to resettle because they have something to start with. So it's highly welcome. Like I said in my speech on behalf of His Excellency, the Executive Governor, every month there are 1,800 women that benefit from the state, 20,000 naira every month since our inauguration as government on 29th May 2019.
Beneficiaries expressed their gratitude to the federal government while expecting more such life-lifting programs.
I am extremely grateful to God for this 20,000 naira to help me boost my business. I am indeed happy and grateful. I sell palm oil and groundnut oil, and this money will help a great deal in expanding my business.
Presently, over 130,000 beneficiaries in the 6 local government areas of the state are being given the conditional cash transfer grants recently launched to improve the social, economic activities and livelihood of women in Zamfara State.
Let's take a break. When we return, we'll take a look at some more of the stories happening around COVID-19. Please stay on with us. Welcome back to our COVID-19 update. Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun has announced that all hotels, viewing centers, event centers, suites, guest houses, hotels, and establishments providing accommodation for tourists or entertainment, restaurants, eateries, fast food centers, lounges, bars, and cinemas in the state can now reopen for business. Governor Abiodun further directed that schools, markets, and religious centers in the state can also revert to their regular program of activities as obtained before the lockdown occasioned by COVID-19. A statement by the governor's chief press secretary, Mr. Kule Shomori, however, said the hospitality establishments are to scrupulously adhere to a set of guidelines in order to keep up with the protocols aimed at flattening the curve of COVID-19. While reinstating the need to rebuild the economy, the state government maintains that it was irrevocably committed to the successful implementation of the governor's agenda, and as such will do everything possible to ensure that the people have increased prosperity that will place the state on a sound footing towards continued development. In Yobe State, the government there says it has distributed food and non-food palliatives to 60,000 vulnerable persons affected by both the Boko Haram insurgency as well as the COVID-19 lockdown. The executive secretary of the state's emergency management agency, however, expressed concern over the burgling of warehouses across the country, but also explains that timely distribution of food palliatives to beneficiaries in Yobe State has truncated the possible looting of its warehouses.
Adding up all the different stages of intervention, we have reached out to over 60,000 households. This excludes our IDPs that we reach out periodically to them with or without COVID-19. So the calmness is partly related to our urgency in the distribution, His Excellency's directive to reach out to the beneficiaries directly. There are communities that it took us two hours to drive in canoe to deliver the palliatives to them. There are communities that take us to go with four-wheel drives, how to reach communities, how to deliver the palliatives to them. For somebody that will go with a Toyota Camry car, heavily built person, to go and boggle a warehouse just to pick a carton or two of Indomie, that person is not a vulnerable person.
Calm has been restored to the Gwagwalada community in the Federal Capital Territory following the looting of 3 warehouses in the area by rampaging youths earlier this week. On Monday, October the 26th, the youth in the area invaded the warehouses where COVID-19 palliatives were stored and carted away all the items therein. This led to tension in the area as security operatives tried to ward them off the facilities.
Monday, October 26, 2020, is one day many people in Gwagwalada Area Council will not forget in a hurry, as rampaging residents descended on 3 warehouses there belonging to the Federal Capital Territory Administration. This is what is left of the facilities after the invasion. The authorities are still taking stock of the items that were looted. At the Idu industrial area, warehouses belonging to private businesses were not spared. This rice mill was vandalized during the invasion in the area, leaving the owners to count their losses.
On Sunday, 25th of this month, October, we received a distress call about 11:30 in the night, and that some hoodlums are here trying to gain access to the warehouse. And before we could know, call any security agents, they've already entered and they were vandalizing and moving out our stock. We have about 5 trucks of beans and 4 trucks of rice in the warehouse. That night, it was 90% gone. And we have been able to, over 140 million naira has been estimated to be what has been taken away, sir.
The area office of the Council for the Regulation of Freight Forwarding in Nigeria.
Meanwhile, Adamawa State Governor Umar Fintiri has given a 12-hour ultimatum to those involved in the looting of public and private warehouses and other government agencies to return the looted items or face the consequences of their actions. The governor gave the order while addressing citizens of the state in a broadcast where he lamented the loss witnessed as materially colossal, but more enormous is the loss of moral values driven by greedy criminal urge to steal, according to him. He also announced the arrest of over 100 suspects involved in the looting, condemning their action in strong terms as an outright demonstration of brigandage, describing it as barbaric, criminal, and a recipe for anarchy.
The radio room, officer's This is the remains of my office. It's just one. Secretary office. Okay, this is locked. Okay, the other side. This is locked.
We are still taking stock of extent of loot and damages to properties of government and private entities. The loss is materially colossal, but more enormous is the loss of moral values driven by greedy criminals' urge to steal. We condemn in strong terms the outright demonstration of brigandage as barbaric, criminal, and recipe for anarchy. As a responsible government, we cannot fold our arms while criminals are trying to take over our society. We are working round the clock to ensure that peace is returned to our society. Working with the security agencies, we have activated the necessary instrument for a return to normalcy and arrest of the looters. So far, our effort is yielding results. Relative peace is returning as to no new attack has been reported in the last 24 hours. Arrests has been made. So far, 155 suspects are in police custody. 19 vehicles and 12 tricycles loaded with loots have also been impounded. On this note, I assure every resident of the state our continuous commitment to the protections of their lives and property. I'm giving a 12-hour ultimatum, beginning from 6 p.m. this evening to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, to the hoodlums to return whatever they looted from public and private warehouses and homes to the nearest police station and traditional rulers' houses, from the ward to the district level. This ultimatum will expire tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., after which I will sign an executive order for a house-to-house search to commence by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning of the same day. Part of the provisions of the order is a sanction that will attract withdrawal of CFO, and demolition of every house that harbors any of the stolen properties.
In Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde has been meeting with youth groups, artisans, and other stakeholders, appealing to them to work with the state government to bring back peace to the state. The meeting, which was held at the House of Chiefs at the Secretariat in Ibadan, also had representatives of NSAS protesters in attendance to represent their case. Governor Makinde says the meeting is to get the buy-in of all stakeholders to ensure that the police can return to their duty posts immediately without fear of being attacked.
In the ongoing engagement with various strata of the society in Oyo State is the turn of youth groups from the organized and informal sectors.
Forever we shall always fight for our right.
Artisans, traders, student bodies and other stakeholders are here to deliberate with the Oyo State government on the way forward after the crisis that erupted in the wake of the End SARS protests.
We would like to state categorically to the citizens of your state that the End SARS movement is in no way friends to violence. In fact, we ask for peace, because if we are fighting against brutality in the police force, we can't do that with violence. We ask for peace, and we ask every stakeholder to also embrace peace.
We want the rejuvenation of voluntary youth organization in our schools. We know that Catch Them Young syndrome, it goes a long way. Like me, I started with the Girls Brigade when I was 4 years old. But how many of them do we have? We thank God we still have Madowo operating. Very few schools are operating in Scouts. And from there, our youthful exuberance would have been used up. And we will have issues.
Having listened to all, Governor Seyi Makinde notes that despite the recent protest against police brutality, which he said is a worthy cause, the police and the people would have to come together to build a better society. The governor adds that he has approved the recruitment of 1,500 personnel to kickstart the Amotekun security initiative.
We need you, the artisans, the Okada riders, the micro riders, micro operatives, the youth, even the NSAS protesters. We all have to come together and protect our state. So that is why I call this meeting to also seek your buy-in.
The Oyo State government has set up platforms for reporting police brutality and right abuses to fast-track the job of the Judicial Panel of Inquiry, which is said will be inaugurated next week. So far, 46 persons have reported infractions and right abuses in the state.
And now to the latest figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the NCDC. 113 new confirmed cases and 3 deaths were recorded on Tuesday, the 27th of October. The new cases are reported from 12 states, with Lagos having 51 of those cases. The FCT 15, Plateau 11, Kaduna, Oyo, and Rivers recorded 8 cases each. Ogun had 4, Edo, Imo, and Kwara had 2 each, while Delta and Kano reported 1 case each. Till date, 62,224 cases have been confirmed. 57,916 of those cases have been discharged after treatment, and 1,135 deaths have been recorded in 36 states as well as the Federal Capital Territory. Let's talk now to Dr. Arit Esangbedo, consultant psychiatrist, who joins us via Skype from the Yaba area of Lagos. Good evening, Doc. Welcome to the program, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
First of all, let me get your take. The issue of the happenings of the last couple of weeks, there have been people who have reported having difficulty in adjusting to the new realities, especially after they were either victims of attack or having their properties raided or looted, depending on what phrase you want to use. How best do you think such people can adjust to the situation that they find themselves now? How best do you think they can treat those?
Thank you very much. First, I would like to say that I extend my sympathies to all those that lost their businesses during this period. It's really, really terrible because trying to recover from the COVID lockdown and now this. So I can't just imagine what they'll be going through. Well, right now is not the time to throw blames, and now is not the time to dwell on what has happened. It has happened. It's now time to move on. So for this set of people, we need a lot of support. They need a lot of support system right now. They need immediate debriefing, what we call debriefing. They sit down and talk about this whole incident because a lot of them took loans from banks. Some people are just trying to, get their feet together and their businesses, and all of a sudden, all this is gone. And in the midst of this, people have died. So the whole thing, we need immediate debriefing for a lot of Nigerians right now, because what is happening is really terrible. And if you let this period go without intervening as fast as possible, people will start developing what we call post-traumatic stress disorder in the next few weeks or months to come. So right now, we need a lot of support. There's no time to say, is this person's fault or that person? We need a lot of community contribution and government intervention. We need the religious leaders to intervene. We need everybody, all hands must be on deck now. We need to offer pro bono services. I've started offering mine because a lot of people have been calling in. We need support groups. There are some helplines they can reach out to talk to people. Right now, everybody must be sympathetic to what is happening. And we must all put our hands together so that we can form a common, community, a bonding in the community right now. So that's the stand so far for now.
Let me bring you a bit closer home and talk about health workers themselves, because they also bear part of the brunt of this. Of course, in the aftermath of the arrival of COVID-19 itself, because of its newness, because of how it arrived, and because of how we went about tackling it, the headline workers or the health workers were in the front line of this fight, and yet they found it a bit difficult to adjust. Many of them got infected. Many were also affected by this in other ways. Do you think it's a real fear amongst health workers that they could, if they haven't already, do suffer from some level of PTSD?
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear the last question. I didn't hear the last part of the question. But if you can't adjust to a certain situation, there is no how you will not, in the few weeks or months to come, you will not develop post-traumatic stress disorder. But post-traumatic stress disorder on its own comes with a lot of symptoms such as anxiety, depression, insomnia, you can't sleep, you're restless, always fidgety and busy. You will see a lot of that. We are already seeing it in my facility, and we know we are going to see a lot of that. People from the COVID era, we saw a lot of that, and we're trying to make people adjust to the situation on ground, to the new normal, and then all of a sudden this. So I'm very sure we're going to be having a lot of that in the few weeks or months to come. However, like I said, support is the important thing right now. This is not the time for banks to come and say, you're owing us money. This is not the time for landlords to come and say, come and pay your rent. This is not the time to say, come and pay children's school fees. This is the time for us to rally around together so that people do not develop post-traumatic stress disorder, because once post-traumatic stress disorder sets in, it's very difficult to go away. Some people will live with this condition, and it's so expensive to assess health. It's such an expensive situation to assess health here. So we wouldn't want that to happen in the country currently. So we'll just put in our best and support as much as we can.
Symptoms of PTSD. How would you know if if you're a layman and you're looking at someone else, how could you possibly suspect, or what are the signs to look out for to know that this person has some level of PTSD?
Okay, that's easy. First, they will complain of not being able to sleep. There's hyperarousal. They're always edgy. They're always the feeling of fear of doom. They'll tell you that they have flashbacks of what has happened. They have nightmares. They tell you that you see them sweating. They talk maybe just listening to music will tell them, oh, you hear them say, please, I don't want to listen to that music. It reminds me of certain things, something negative that happened. You hear those kind of things. Those are the common symptoms that they will present to you. You also have symptoms like depression, and then you have people that will begin to abuse prescription medication. You have people that will begin to use alcohol. You have people that would think of committing suicide or even attempt it and complete it in some cases. So these are the common symptoms you will see in people, and this should give you a red flag to either immediately refer this patient to see a specialist, or you start your own debriefing at that point before you do your referral to see the physician or the mental health professional.
How do you do this debriefing?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I said, how do you do this debriefing? How do you do the debriefing? I mean, if I'm not a physician, but I notice the various things that you've just mentioned in a sibling or in a spouse, how do you do it?
Okay. Just the support, and just the support, sitting there and being there for the person, talking to the person, and just trying to encourage the person. That is enough. You don't really have to do much. Encourage the person, talk to the person, encourage the person to, time to move on, just about the incident. You can talk about the incident and make the person understand that it has happened. It's time to move on. And what's the next step? Or even just sitting down with the person, crying with the person if you have to cry with the person. It's enough. So it's just that support system, that support that you're giving the person knows that you're there and not left alone. That alone is enough to give the person the will and the zeal to move on.
My final question to you would be about the health workers themselves. People talk about going to see the doctor, going to see the specialist, and so on. But sometimes these people themselves are affected by this. So who do they go to? Who debriefs them? And how do they try to cope with this if they are those affected by it?
Well, you see, in certain situations, you have the primary victims, you have the secondary victims. You have the primary victim might be the individual that is directly affected. You have secondary victims that might be this might be the individual that witnessed or are like carers. The truth is that support system cuts across everybody. Just as you're offering support to another person, you yourself should be seeking some form of counseling. So even as a physician, as myself, I also have to do some form of peer support with my colleagues when I think I'm stressed out, because stress, everybody experiences stress. But when it becomes way overwhelming, that is when it becomes a problem. So you also have to check yourself. You have to be flexible. Don't be too rigid. Don't berate yourself. Oh, I should have. It has happened. You move on. So that's just it. Most times people don't tend to accept things, they're in denial. It takes a while before they begin to accept what has happened. You have to give them time to adjust to it. But once you notice that symptoms are becoming overwhelming, interfering with the activities of daily living, interfering with relationships, social interaction, then at that point, the person needs to see a specialist.
All right, then. Thank you so very much, Dr. Arit Isangbedo, consultant psychiatrist, for your time this evening on the program. We've benefited a lot from your interventions. Thank you very much. Outside our shores, the French President Emmanuel Macron has announced a second national lockdown for the month of November as the number of COVID-19 cases in France continues to rise. COVID-19 daily deaths in that country are also said to now be at their highest level since April, reaching 33,000 on Tuesday. Under the new measures announced by the president, which will begin on Friday, October the 30th, People will only be allowed to leave home for essential work or medical reasons. However, non-essential businesses such as restaurants and bars will close, but schools and factories will remain open. Here's our global update.
French President Emmanuel Macron says Europe must coordinate its response to the coronavirus. He made the remark as he received the Estonian Prime Minister, Jüri Ratas, at the Elysee Palace. He said the seriousness of the situation on the continent requires the greatest coordination on a European level. France is preparing this week to order people to stay in their homes except for essential journeys, work or exercise, in a fresh attempt to curb the COVID-19 pandemic. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's sending army medics to a region in the Urals which has been hit by a surge in COVID-19 cases, and the government may allocate 10 billion rubles more in region support as the country grapples to bring a recent surge in infections under control. The president has described the situation in some regions as alarming. Spain's health minister, Salvador Illa, says the situation in his country is worrying as coronavirus will be favoured by winter. He mentioned this in Parliament, where he also says there is concern about the fast increase of COVID-19 cases and the characteristics of the second wave. Finally, the United States has reported a total of 489,769 new confirmed COVID-19 cases in the past 7 days, starting October the 20th, bringing the average caseload each day to 69,967. That's according to the Center for Systems Science and Engineering at Johns Hopkins University. It said the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country reached over 8.7 million, including a death total of 226,604 as of Tuesday.
Thanks for being with us. That's our wrap-up of the COVID-19 update tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Ladi Akere-Duluale. For more on these stories and indeed others, as well as the global numbers, please go to our website, channelstv.com. You'll have those details and details as well of other stories, including those of business, sports, and, of course, politics. Tomorrow we'll be back with another update at 9 p.m. Good night.